What's up, guys? Alright, so let's start with quick. Well, there we go. Usually I use 100% opacity. I'm just gonna, and it's just gonna be my design of scorpion, so it's not gonna look exactly like a scorpion. Just gonna make it look maybe post-apocalyptic or something. Let's just Scorpio. So now I got torso, the other arm right there. This arm will be up front, this leg will be up. So usually if one leg come up front, the other the opposite arm will be forward. If you have any question, feel free to ask on the chat board. There we go. I'll move it up a bit. Hello, Ian. So that leg's gonna be a little bit behind because in the back. I gotta reposition the feet a little bit. Alright, I'm just gonna make a copy of that in case I screwed up. Not sure if I want to do the full body. Yeah, let's just do the full body, why not? Maybe about that. Well, let's just do the whole thing. I'm gonna resize the head a bit. Because if you have big head, your body will look small. Your head is smaller, your body will look big. Alright, now I'm just gonna fill in the whole thing. There is never if you run out of idea. Well, if you're doing it as a hobby and you run out of idea, that's okay. You know, just copy something. But if you're doing it, if you want to be a professional concept artist and you run out of idea, you're fired. You can't run out of idea, man. Well, you run out of ideas, find something to draw. It just kind of like when people ask me if they have art block or something. There's never such thing as art block. You have an art block, most likely you should, you will get fired. You can't have an art block. Be like, oh, I have an art block today, my art director. Oh, you're fired. Have a good day. Well, you don't work 20 hours a day or more than you should. I mean, there's always things. There's always study to do. There's always shitload to do. Like, I always never have enough time to finish any of my stuff. And I always want to do, maybe I want to do, like right now I'm doing like Scorpion, which is not my own IP or my own original character. I could do my own original character. But you can always, take something else and tweak it and make it different. You know what I mean? Your own interpretation of things. And you can, just do whatever that keep your hand moving. And now I'm gonna do the cape, which is I'm gonna make it about 40 or 50. And this one I kind of have some idea in mind of what I want. That's why it's going pretty fast. Sometimes when I don't have any idea, it's just gonna be like, I'm just gonna babble a lot. Alright, so now I'm just gonna select these cape and pick darker, maybe a little bit lighter. Make sure that it's not as dark as the body. I'm just gonna add some shadow in the back. Ta-da! So it's kind of like, you think about Mad Max and scorpion, then that's what I'm thinking here. There's so many things to do, man. How could you run out of ideas? You don't have to think too hard. I mean, you know, usually you're not the one who's thinking when you are working. I mean, you do think of original character, but most of the time writer will give you some tips. Writer will kind of give you, hey, this is what the character we want for the game, or the character we want for the script. You come up with something according to the description. Or read a lot of books, then, you know, usually you never run out of ideas if you read a lot. You only run out of idea. Only limitation is basically the information that you have. You don't have any information, then too bad. So now I am going to... The reason I made a copy of this so that I can merge it down, right? Then I can make a selection here and I'm going to invert it, delete, so I can merge this whole thing. The reason I do that because the original sketches is not opaque, and I cut it so that it has the shape of the character I have, so everything become opaque. So if I paint anything on top of it, even if I use modifier layer, it will not change the color, because if modifier merge with something that is not 100% opaque, then you pretty much screwed, because the color and property will change. Alright, so, and this weekend I will upload a paint over tutorial because it's time. I usually do the paint over for my Patreon once in 2 weeks, and then there'll be, I just got myself a Galaxy tab, so I just got a couple days ago, and I'll probably upload some tablet sketch using Sketchbook Pro. I just found a program, Adobe Sketch, that looks pretty good also, so I might be doing that. I bet it's probably better at painting than Sketchbook Pro, because Sketchbook Pro is really good on the drawing, but on the painting wise, I'm not a big fan. It's too many things to pick from. The Adobe Sketch has, like, the interface is super simple, and you just drag up, down, and pick your own value. It's kind of, well, it's about as easy. I guess I'm just not used to Sketchbook Pro. All right, so let's see here. Hello, Vignesh. Oops, some window overlapping here. All right. Now I am trying to look for some lighting. So I'm just gonna add some shadow. Just gonna go a little bit darker. You can use multiply also, but I'm just using normal and go about 10% darker, and maybe 50% opacity. That arm is going in the back side, so there. This is in the front. Occlusion shadow. Let's change some brush. And about texture brush, don't worry about it so much. Trying to find the right value. The use of texture brush will come in time when you understand edges. If you don't understand edge or how to use edges, don't even, I mean, it's gonna be pretty hard for you. But if you know what edge to use in where, because texture brush is basically mostly the way I use it, it's making transition between the value. You can do pretty much the same thing with default brush that I'm using here. It's just going to be slower on the default because, you know, to blend it, or you can use soft brush, but soft brush doesn't get this kind of texture, which is, you know, that's what I want, some noise. But it's not really about the texture, it's about where you put your value and how you utilize the value. And basically you have to know the geometry, form, and the face of the object that you are painting. Say, I'm going to show you a little bit here. Let's just say I'm going to use overlay now. Just going to try to add some light so I can explain something. Oop, that's a little too strong. And if the surface is like here, it's a little more round, right? But then in here you can have a little edge. So you have the harder edge here, and then you have the light coming here. And the light in here is a default light. So you can see the legs coming up. And this one will have lighter area. And then this legs going down. Not going down, but going straight down here, but then the face is going forward. This face is facing up. So if you look at the value here, there's two different. This is lighter, and this is kind of darker. And that one is, you look at the geometry. Whoops. This one's going, this one's down here, so it's facing basically front, but the legs is facing downward. So this one angle down, this also angle down. So that's why you have slightly different value here, and this is darker than that. And this arm also, see what I mean? So everything you can break it down in plane, and if you paint like in terms, think of it in terms of plane, then you have a better result in setting up. So setting up is really important, because if you don't set up well, you will most likely everything, all the value will be off. And try not to go too, you know, far off. This value that I have is not that much different. Like if you look at it here, 41, and then this is 38. That's like what, 5, not even 5% different, but you can see the form already. The more limited you can use your value range, the more room you have for later use of the different type of value. So now I'm gonna add a little bit of detail. Alright, so that's just some tip for this week on YouTube. Okay, now I'm just gonna add a little bit more detail. So arm right here, and like I said, the brush is cool, but it's not as important as you think. It doesn't. It's a myth. You have to kind of know where to put things together. That doesn't. Is that too low? Probably. I don't know. I'm just gonna put armor on him. Doesn't look that good. Look too. Usually I can feel it if there's something will go according to plan within the first 20 minutes. If it doesn't, then I would know it within like 20 minutes. Alright, so I'm gonna let's add some get over here. That was like when the first Mortal Kombat came out. I think that was the same time as Street Fighter 2. I was pretty good at both, actually. That was like that's the only type of video game that I'm good at. Fighting game. Other than that, I suck. Shooter game, I suck so bad. I got shot in the face so many times. I don't do well in first person. It doesn't look straight. Okay, so now I guess, well, I'm just gonna use lasso to cut it because I want it to be sharp. Recommend painting in high contrast. If you're gonna paint character alone, I find high contrast doesn't usually fit with it in the beginning. I usually find my way to high contrast later. But if you're establishing comms, then yes, high contrast. Good question. It's two different type, but same principle. It's not entirely different. It's just different in terms of like thinking. Because in comm, you want to separate. Well, you have depth and you have a lot more things involved. You have like things from like 5 feet from you and 100 feet from you, or no, and maybe 2 miles or 5 miles. So that in terms of value, you have a long range. All right, so well, let's just put this one in the folder. How much time do we have? Been here about 20 minutes. Okay, let's do 10 more. Since you guys are here. Usually when I'm on Twitch, there's only like 0 people, which is nice sometimes. But sometimes there's no good question. So I like question is good for my brain. So like when if my student has question, it's kind of oh shit, never thought of that. Sometimes I just do it, so I don't really think about it as much. But when there is like people have question, I'll be like, oh yeah, never thought of that before. So as far as like a lot of time, I would learn a lot from my class also, because then I go back to the foundation. It's like, yeah, how come they didn't really understand what I explained, or they did, but there is a better way that I can explain it, or the better way that I can do a demo. So it's been pretty valuable. It's fun. I still do the traditional like every day basically, but they're like quick scribble, like thumbnails and stuff. And once in a while I'll do some refined stuff, but a lot of time I'll do in live drawing session. Live drawing is good for you. You'll be able to do so many things. Alright, I'm gonna add a little more shadow in the back. I should go about 35 or 36. And let's see, which one should I use? Let's go with that. Like a lot of time I have no idea which brush I use. I will have like a few favorite brushes that I use, but a lot of time I don't really care. Whatever works. I change to my favorite brush again and I change it back to there. There we go. Maybe too dark? I don't know. Yeah, a little too dark. Because I want the body to have a nice silhouette stand out from the cloak. And this cloak should kind of come up front here a bit. there, and then this thing would go on the side. Well, that one should go up then. Make it confusing here. Oh shit, I think I just screwed it up. Because that scarf is a little too low. Maybe. What if I cut it out? Yeah, there we go. And this plane should be slightly darker. And occlusion shadow. Alright, I'm gonna add some color. I'm gonna add some gradient here in the back. Usually work well for me. Whoops, the wrong side. The other side. Because gradient kind of made your silhouette slightly stronger. Depends on which side. Trying to find the best way. Alright, I guess that's kind of okay. But since it has the floor, I should kind of make the floor a little too dark. It is. And you notice that I make a new layer for this, so basically I can take it out if I want to. Do I need to add shadow? Yes, probably. Well, let's add some shadow, why not? What the hell? Too many things to do. And if the light's there, shadow will be here. And goes. And I can just eraser, soft brush, 30%. There. Now, it's time to add some color. The reason I add them all together here is because it's kind of, you know, it's probably a lot easier there. I could like do that stage on the color, but since in the back. Anyways, my mind's always running around, so sometimes I do something first and something later. So since she's yellow, yellow and black, then I will mid-tone. I'll put kind of toward the warm. Wait, this is environment. Oh, okay, because it's overall. So I'm just gonna put blue, purple, sort of. There. Highlight, maybe a bit more blue. There we go. Okay, now let's add some color. What do you want his cloak color to be like? Should it be yellow? I don't know. Should we do yellow? Yes, no, yes, 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 no. Okay, you guys are too slow. Alright. Ooh, that's not the yellow I want. I want it darker. Ooh, that's gross. Maybe orange. No. Damn it. Come on. Work with me here. Okay, I guess. We'll pick darker blue and add shadow inside it. I don't know, yellow cape make him look like a douchebag. I don't think it works. Okay, so let's give up that idea. I don't want it to be too much of a douche. Maybe we'll go a little more earth tone. It's still kind of yellow, but it's not quite yellow. Because yellow, you don't have dark yellow, you only have brown. That's the surprising thing about yellow. You never seen dark yellow, do you? Yeah, you see bright yellow but not dark. Okay, now I'm gonna add overlay on the character. That should be part of yellow too. And now I'm gonna add bright yellow on some of his. So I think it's that yellow. I don't know. Cause it's, yeah, black would be a good choice too, but I want something not black anymore. I'm done with black. It's like orange is the new black. Okay. Oh, it's supposed to have like a little bit here also. Yeah, right, he's kind of a little bit of a douchebag. It's like, get over here. Alright. And maybe a little bit yellow here. But he is actually the first character I play in Mortal Kombat, and my buddy always played the Sub-Zero. Because I think it's a lot more fun to, I don't know, for Scorpion personal taste, because you drag him in and you just punch him. I think that's more satisfying. Yeah, no, too much yellow there. Maybe a little bit here, a little bit here. There, just accent. Kind of think where to add more yellow. I think that should be okay. Alright, let's do some skin tone. Gonna have him super tan. Ta-da! Maybe a little bit more red. Well, I look like Jack. Okay, gotta go lighter. What the hell? I don't want him dark. Too light. Alright, guess that's okay. Fuck it. We ran out of time. And the body probably overall will be purple metal and then bluish. And the metal will be a little bit more blue, I guess. So let's just do that. Or green. Yeah, could do green. Metal a little. Too much green there. Go toward blue a little. And then after this is the part I kind of established the color, but not. This is way far, still too far from being done. Not even halfway there. If you're gonna add color, but if you're doing black and white, probably this is pretty close to being done. Alright, so now what can I do with him? I'm gonna use multiply. Pick color from their background. Maybe go a little bit toward red. Add some shadow. Give it more form. Hard edge. You notice that I usually zoom out a lot at this point, because at this point there's no need for detail yet. This scarf, I wonder what color would be. Let's do, you can't use any other color because it's a scorpion, right? So let's do yellow and see if it works. If it doesn't, then well, too bad. No, let's go a bit darker, more saturated. Just go with the bottom, I guess. Yeah, maybe a little bit. And then behind it, it could be blue. Let's do desaturate, dark blue, purple. Yeah, purple doesn't look good. Blah. Let's go with that. More blue here. Darker. There we go. Kind of like almost black. Alright, so now let's add a bit more light, shall we? Well, let's gonna set up, make it a little more too much there. Multiply. Okay, now it stand out. Okay. Now I'm gonna select this whole thing. Well, I just select the dude for now. And I'm gonna go with layer, adjustment, level. Increase the contrast. If it looks three-dimensional, that means it's good enough to stop. There we go. Now I'm going to do the same thing with his cloak. Yeah, escape turn yellow. That's fine. Alright. Now, if I want to add some additional lighting, I could just go use overlay and pick the background light. Alright, so this is pretty much the setup. Alright, so now we come this far. Let's continue. So I'm just going to check the color a little bit. I'm going to turn off and on and compare the color. I was thinking the dark might be a little too blue, but so I'm going to have to change color balance a little bit, because the color balance push it toward make it toward blue a little bit more. I want the dark to be slightly warm, but we'll see. And now I have another level here underneath the body, which is this one is covering the his cape. So I'm gonna lower the opacity on that, so it's not gonna be too dark and too contrast, and I'm going to erase the backside a little bit, make it slightly darker, because the level push it to the lighter side. And well, that's probably not enough. It still doesn't look quite as, it still doesn't have the look I want. So I'm just gonna go to, that's multiply, overlay. So the overlay is yellow, and I'm gonna turn level off. Pick the dark color and go to multiply layer, make selection. I'm on that multiply layer there, and now I'm going to paint that to be dark. And you notice the dark value that I just paint there is a little more toward the warm hue or toward the brown. So, well, I'm just going to make a new multiply layer because otherwise it will mix up with the shadow. So that's another new layer there. Okay, so now we have, and I'm going to paint on the other side also. So the outside of the cave is dark or almost black, and the inside of the cave is blue. So that's a kind of like fashionable. Then I'm going to have to make his scarf, which is probably part of his cape, also in the same color. But the problem is it's a little more blue on top, and on the scarf when I try to paint it, so I will have to pick the color from that. Okay, so I just picked the color right from the from his cape and paint it onto his scarf that wrapping around, and possibly going to paint onto the rest of his body. I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit. So now you can see it's a lot less blue, and now I'm going to turn on the color balance and everything and see if the color change much. It doesn't, but that's okay. I'm just going to paint the rest of them dark anyway, and then we can shift the color on this layer later, because all this layer that I'm painting on here using multiply will be the dark value. So I'm using 100%, but the opacity on the layer itself is about 70%, 77%, and it's fine. So I just want to lay down the base color and value at the moment. So all right, and same thing down to the pants and the boots. That leaves some spot for the metal. I'm not sure about that one. Well, let's make it dark also. Why not? He's a ninja, because his main color is basically black and yellow. So let's just paint that too, and erase the yellow side part, and then maybe a little bit on the gauntlet, on the gloves, then that part there. All right, gonna lower the opacity a little bit more. That level make it really dark, and this make it really blue on the color balance. So I'm gonna lower down the opacity even more when I turn those on, because I'm gonna merge everything down. And let's see what I can do here to make it a little more. I'm just gonna use a color balance on that multiply layer itself and move it toward red and yellow, and go to highlight red and yellow and see how far I could push it to make it less blue, because it looks super blue. All right, more green. So the color shift a little bit. You can hardly see it because it's multiply layer. So multiply is already really hard to see the color. So now it's shifting toward a little more warm. So there, that's the color I want. Move it up a little bit. So it's a lot less blue with, you know, color balance and level on. So that's fine. That would be a color I want, even though it's slightly different from the cave, but it's fine. Increase the value a little bit on the multiply. Now I'm just going to paint regularly on the normal layer. Or I'll make another normal there. This will be detail. So I'm just going to keep painting on top. So I'm not going to merge it yet. I'll probably merge it later on. So I'm just going to clean this up. So, oh, I forgot to add his head or his mask. So the top of the hair should be the same color as the rest of the body. The cape might be slightly different. It's fine. So now I'm using 100% normal and adding a little bit of occlusion shadow and painting some design on this pattern on top of his forehead, and trying to maintain the lighting direction that I already have. Because if in here, if you look at the navigator there, so all the lighting or the default lighting is already set up, and the base color is already set up. All I need to do is basically clean this figure and maintain the value, and I could add a little bit of element on top. Everything should be fine as long as I don't change the lighting or I don't introduce the weird value onto the wrong spot. This should be okay, because at this point the lighting is already there, and this is like the big form. Once you get the big form, what I am going to do next is just adding cleaning it up, make sure that all the edges, all the silhouette and the shape are nice. And I'm just going to, so now I'm merging it down, the body, and I'm going to merge out the background down, and I'm just going to merge out the cape down, and on level I might tone it down a bit, merge down the cape, and I'm just going to merge level down to the body and color balance. But then on color balance, it covers everything, so I have to make a copy of the color balance for each layer that I'm going to put it. So the background, and then for the cape and for the shadow. So that's the shadow right there merging. And now make one more for the cape. And now I'm just going to merge everything down to the body, because I didn't make a selection on the color balance, and that's why I have to merge it onto every single layer that I'm going to make, so it maintains the same color. Now I'm merging the rest of them down to the body. Bam. So now I just have the body, the cape, the shadow, and the background. And then I'm just going to use eraser and, well, eraser and clean it up, the edge of the figure. And if you, like, a lot of times you see me zoom out, and the reason I zoom out, if you look at the navigator, that's the reason I zoom out, because I want to get overall form first. Overall form is basically overall lighting, and then once you have your lighting set up, if you didn't screw up or you didn't introduce the wrong value to the wrong spot, then the rest of them should remain as is, right? So from this point on here, I could add the lighter yellow on the lighter spot. That's where the light hit, which is the default light. You look at the sphere, and then if the yellow will get darker as it go into the shadow side, which is the left side of the screen. So right now I'm on the light, so I'm okay. I could bring a little bit of lighter gray onto that area, or a lighter kind of lighter shade of his black there, but in the shadow it will be dark. Now I'm cleaning up the chest part, and I could add more detail onto the chest, like maybe adding more geometry shape, but it's gonna depends on which part is it facing, right? So now I'm trying to define the structure of his face a little more, the side of the nose, and then bring the side of the mask down. So this side will be the shadow side, and the other side will also be a little bit of shadow, because the light is in the middle off to the right side. And if you look at it, the shadow kind of slowly going to the middle more. I'm just trying to maintain the value they already have. So in here, using a little bit of texture brush. Not sure if I like that. I'm probably gonna clean it up a bit more, because make it, well, the fabric, if I want to make it cleaner, I shouldn't use the texture brush, but that's okay. I already use it. So now adding a little bit of occlusion shadow onto the side of the mouthpiece, and adding a bit more light onto that part. And more shadow onto the bottom side of the face, because as your face, the bottom part of the face is tapering downwards, so it's going to be darker than the middle part and the forehead. And then it's probably a little too light on the right side of the forehead, so I need to add some shadow there, but I'll fix that later. Right now I just want to focus on the pattern on his head. I just want a pattern on his head, maybe look like some kind of scorpion tail. I'm just going to make a selection here. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow back onto the other side. There. Side little bit of shadow. So if you have my palette, you notice the sphere of light. And if you look at the sphere of light, both sides will have shadow. The light usually shine mostly in the middle. So you can see that from the screen that you look at that gray sphere right on the right, you see all the shadow. Shadow will be all around like the outer edge, right? Because you're using default light. So you should, tiny little shadow would be add, even though the light is, because now we're trying to build a default light. And then we'll add some other different light later on. All right, cleaning it, and occlusion shadow, a little bit of shadow and more occlusion shadow side. Just try to clean up the face. I'm not trying to change any value. And if you check back to the navigator, just to make sure if the lighting still maintain the same, and if it looks off and if the form changed, that means you screwed up at some point. So try to use the existing value that are around that area. And if you needed occlusion shadow, then you can go dark and just apply the darkest value only onto the occlusion part or the darkest part. Just don't add the dark everywhere, because sometimes a lot of people tend to go too contrast. Try to maintain the form. In this form, I already have the nice form going here, so all I have to do is maintain the form and maybe adding. So now I'm adding detail. I'm plugging the hole onto his mouthpiece there. And these are just pattern and design. It's okay if it have different value because it's just a design. And then this one is another hole. Maybe I should make it a little lighter so it just look like some part of the object that are facing down. And gonna make it slightly lighter in the middle there, and try to make planes so that part in the middle will be the lightest part of the mouthpiece. A little bit of light on that yellow on the forehead, and maybe add some dots, black dots or white dots or something. It's like the third eyes or some type of design. Because Scorpion has third eye, I think, on the top of its head. So maybe add a little pattern onto the side of the hood. And if you notice, the yellow pattern on the side of the hood is darker than the yellow as it coming forward to the middle of the face. A little pattern there. Nope, I don't think that looks good. Maybe you should get rid of that pattern. It's too much pattern. Maybe you should simplify the top a bit. I think I take it out in the end, the lighter part of the gray. Now I'm just making the mouthpiece a little more, giving it a little more shape, like it had the middle high ridge. Now I'm adding more surface to the scarf, so it has multiple layers now. There we go. All right, and I'm going to add a little bit of texture brush, just kind of make transition and then make folding. If you notice, the contrast of the fabric on the blue is not as strong. It's just like darker gray to the black, so there will be mid gray or light gray. Just darker gray, because fabric doesn't have highlight usually, except silk and some other. This one's probably like some sort of a typical cotton or typical maybe not fancy fabric. If you have satin or silk, then it would be a lot shinier. And if you see the yellow will go bright and then it will go dark.
and yellow will get brighter. And when it go dark, it's kind of go not super dark, not as dark as the black, but it will be dark yellow, because if you go darker than that, it will be sort of brown. So I want to maintain yellow. So there. So light side, shadow side, and add a bit of texture brush there. There we go. A little bit of light from the back, slightly. Eventually, I'll have to match the color of the cape with his coat or his scarf. Now I'm adding a bit of occlusion shadow, and you know the cut-off line of the light and shadow have to match. Say, well, let's just, okay, I'm going to show you here a little bit. So if you look at right here is shadow, 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 shadow. Shadow is all cut off there, and with the separate that part, same as here, shadow, 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 right? And then the shadow go there, and then this get a bit darker, and that shadow. So you notice all those lines, you have light yellow to dark light yellow to, and then from the lighter blue, which is still dark, to the darkest of the black. Make sense? All right. Now we're going to add a little bit more occlusion shadow. Bring the scarf out from the body a bit, adding more folding, and make the edge of these yellow pieces sharper so that it would stand out from the dark blue, so it looked like it's stitched on basically. And then make the scarf going around the neck by adding the loop and occlusion shadow. I'm trying to add the light on top, but I don't want it to make it too light because it's still on the shadow side. It has to be kind of darker. Alright, at this point I'm just trying to add tiny little bit of tweaking the shape, like occlusion shadow, a little bit of light, a little bit of shadow, trying to make the shape stand out a little bit more without without breaking the main form. So now I'm merging it down and make another new layer, normal, and let's see here. Gonna add some padding for the shoulder, maybe just a small piece of metal because he doesn't have shoulder pad, right? But I want to kind of add something there. So the lighter part here, closer to the light, be lighter, so I erase that part. And as it go further away, it probably will get darker because it's going away from the light. So two face, another face, and another face bottom. See, you can just giving this thing shape by just adding lighter and darker value, and you can have form. Just two face, three face. I'll show you what it means. So basically what I did was write this thing. This face is one face facing down, that face is facing up, and it's curved, so it will be the lightest part here, go slightly darker there. But this face is facing a little bit this way, so it's slightly darker, and it has a hard edge because it has sharper corner. And then you have this face also facing the same way here. So that's why you get all that. And then it's going to get lighter as it come closer to the middle and kind of darker way. Yeah, so just imagine change of plane. So plane face, when I said face or plane, is mean the same thing, unless I'm drawing particularly on the actual facial feature. So there, so now you have this plane. So start off with just plane, but try to maintain the light and try to match the light to the big form, and then you'll be fine. If it doesn't match the big form, it will look out of place. So right now you see, like, as it going away, just kind of like on his shoulder, the shoulder on his skin, shoulder on the skin is, you know, it's lighter, and the highlight matches on the same area. If it's facing the same direction, it should have the similar lighting. If it's facing the different direction, it should be similar to whatever the value of around that area that has facing the same direction. What I mean is, basically, if you look at these, right, this highlight here, this highlight here facing up the same way as this highlight, but you have this plane that facing this way, so it's kind of same plane as that value on the skin. That's what I mean. Alright, now we come to the chest, so we're gonna try to establish some new plane there. So the plane that facing front here and the plane that facing a little bit downward, and the midsection, which will be the occlusion channel. And then I'm trying to match the shadow from the side, right? But it's kind of lower and has more light, so now I'm getting the shadow. And let's see, I'm trying to think of the design basically at this point, and I'm just gonna go on the bottom and match the color of the scarf to the cape outside, and then drag it up so that it kind of match to his shoulder. All right. And erase some. Maybe you should have it lower so that it kind of continue. It's like look like a continue from the bottom part of the scarf or something. Okay. And clean it up, make it smoother. So now I'm going to the body itself. I'm just going to erase some part of these and maybe adding some part of the cape onto his top shoulder on the left side of the screen. There, so connected there, coming from underneath the big scarf that wrapping around his neck, and maybe has a little bit of yellow edges, so it looks like it's part of the same object or fabric. And as it goes away, I'm going to use I use a texture brush so that it looks like, so the texture brush of the yellow mixed with the blue and is getting darker as if it's going away and face the shadow. So now what am I doing here? Oh, I thought I was gonna paint more on the chest, so tone down this yellow part and give it light. So I'm gonna create multiple face here. So the face that facing the right, so that will be the darker one, and facing top will be brighter. And then, so I just use solid color and paint it, you know, and if that is facing the same way as the top from the elbow, then it will be the same color. Now add the skin on next to it, and try to match the color here. And then that's facing front, it's going to be darker because the light. So now you have full face on that yellow pieces on the gauntlet. One from the top, one facing the left side, and one facing the front. Same as the one on the elbow. Now I'm adding more face, which is going to be facing the front, which has darker. So just imagine like when you paint a box, right? And as you cut the box in and manipulating the box, think of how the plane would, what value would each plane be as you continue to add it, right? So now I'm adding another geometry there and more geometry here, and this one is curving down, so on the side probably be lighter, and as it going away it will be darker. All right, hope you're not getting confused here. So I'm basically at this point I'm just using 100%, and as I paint this shape I might tweak it here and there, but I'm gonna have to look at the face of the geometry of which appropriate value I should put there. Make sense? and just trying to add some sort of a design on a gauntlet that kind of resemble scorpion mandible, basically. But now it's kind of the final will look kind of similar, but not exactly the same. So it looked like a mandible there, but I wanted to make it look a little more mechanical. And you see, as that face kind of going downward, it will face a different direction because your forearm is a little curved, right? So it will not be exactly the same face as the one on top because it's curved, as I'm going to show you here. So this will be brighter. As go down, it will be slightly darker. So what I'm talking about here is, this is basically a cylinder, right? And this face that facing up, as this one's going down, this one also facing up, but now it's facing different direction. That's why it's getting a little darker. As it goes onto the main form, you have the light there, right? And it's going to the shadow also, both sides, right? And you have a light over here, and then the rest will be in shadow. All right. And same thing as what I just paint onto the glove there. The value also change. But you have to always be aware of the direction of the face that are changing, which direction. If it's changing, if it shifts, then you're going to have to constantly shift the value of the face that are turning and changing. If it's just notice that if it's facing the same direction of, and if the same object, then it's the same value in color. If it's facing a different direction away from the light, it will be darker. If it's facing more to the light, it will be lighter. So basically, just that. And as it gradually go further, use the light sphere as your guide. So you know that as it come up to, well, this part here will be lighter, right? And this is the rest. If you go out, 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 it will get darker as it's shown here. So now I'm just tweaking the shape, and I'm probably gonna keep tweaking it a while until I find a happy spot of the shape there. Maybe I'm going to reduce the size a little bit, make it slightly thinner, and make it look like it's in the correct perspective. All right, so you have to also be aware of, like, this part might be, well, wrong one, as it curve, according to perspective, it should be kind of tapered down. So this will get bigger, like in comparison to that height. So that will get tapered down. That's a little exaggerated, but you know what I mean, because the box kind of turned and it's kind of tapered, right? So that one is away. This is closer to you. It's going away, so it tapered down a little bit. So everything will be tapered. So perspective, you have to keep that also in mind. Now I'm just going to make a selection, add some cloth that wrapping around the arm, just make selection and just drawing 100% opacity of the dark and streak there. And then I'm just going to add the light later. You can make a selection of just that part and add the light in the middle and it will be fine. So here, use texture brush, lock it, and pick some lighter part of the dark suit and paint it there. So there, that's where the light will hit. So just follow the form of the arm where the shadow of the light would be, right? It might not, you might not see it as much different, but it's make a huge difference. Without it, it would just look flat. So you have to, even it just have a little, then you should. And now I'm just drawing random line on the bottom part, so it will create the occlusion shadow on just the bottom part of the line. So what I was doing there is basically the loop here. The light passed through here, so this area will be light. And as the line goes here, right, light hit, usually the top part of the line will not be dark. This bottom part of each line will have occlusion shadow. Just the bottom of it, not the top. Now I'm trying to redesign the chest part a little bit, so I split that and add occlusion shadow. So the hard shell, which is the yellow part of the armor, the hard shell, the yellow part is the hard shell, that's what I'm saying, and then the black part is the softer shell, or basically some sort of a fabric. And the yellow part might be metal or some sort of painted metal, so it looks yellow. Okay, now I'm gonna have to maybe, now I have some string of yellow nylon or something. String of yellow nylon and metal mix there. Okay. So that's the design. I'm kind of happy with the design on the side from the waistline. And then I'm gonna have to think, what am I gonna do on top? That's gonna be a problem. And usually, if I get stuck, I will, if I don't like at the moment, I was gonna go for the chest for the design, but then if I don't have any idea at the moment, I'll just skip and move on to the gauntlet instead, move on to the waist instead. And then usually by then, if I come back, I will have some idea. Like I just split the middle of the chest because I have the idea of maybe I should split that into the middle a little bit, halfway. And then eventually, as I move on, work on some other part, I will have a better idea of what I'm going to do to the chest part. And if not, I'm just going to stop, and usually I have a sketch pad right next to my Wacom, like a real sketch pad and pen. And I usually will sketch some shape, and usually I'll come up with something. It's just some random shape, because everything, well, you get this on Patreon, you get chapter, I think 16 also, a beginner's package, chapter 16. So the chapter 16 explains to you how to utilize shape and make something out of shape, and you can make some cool stuff, because everything in the world based on shape, you can just see it in shape, and shape involved in our lives. Without shape, there wouldn't be any design or anything like that. And with all the design, most of them based on the existing basic 3 to 4 shapes. And shapes, if we're talking shape, is the 2-dimensional stuff. Then in form, then we'll talk about form later in chapter 17, so we'll get to that. But you should like watch or listen, or well, just watch. If you already have those beginners package and you never watch it, then you're missing out. You should watch all of them. Now I'm adding the thickness to the arm on the bicep. It should be a little shadow there, and add a little bit of light. And I'm just painting underneath those black string that I have. And this is the advantage of having shoulder, because you can go back one level and fix it, whatever the layer that underneath it, right? So and now you look at navigator, or if you zoom out, you see that the shapes still remain the same. And if you're doing it right, it should even enhance your overall shape even more when you add more value and more detail onto your object. Now I'm going to adding a little bit of highlight, since these are metal, so, and then they are painted metal, so they're going to look a little bit more plastic. They're not going to look like steel, right? the blue part could look like steel, the light blue on the gauntlet, but the yellow part should look more like painted metal, because in terms of when you do material study on metal, usually you do bronze, steel, gold, and maybe chrome, and those are most of the time we're doing the natural state of the metal. But sometimes when you're doing a lot of if you are doing science fiction or futuristic design, or a little bit more contemporary design, and not the old school medieval knight, or that you're using the actual material mineral color of it. Now with the industrial advantage and technology, you can apply color on top of the metal, which those color are not actually the color of the metal itself, but coated. So it's basically petroleum based. So it's basically plastic. So they're based on oil. So all these paint and coat are based on part of the petroleum. What do you call that? Products. So now I'm changing the shape of this part of the gauntlet because I think it's a little bit too clunky. So I'm just gonna thin it down a little bit and maybe add something on the side more. It still look kind of like mandible. I'm trying to maintain the shape, but I just think it's a little bit too fat, and I'm just trying to fix this. And usually it will, sometimes I'll changing things, but what I don't change is I don't go back and trying to change the big shape or the big silhouette of the overall design. Like if I already have those skirt that come down, or those protective pad on the hip, I will not go and change that, or I probably won't go and change the cape. I might take the whole cape out, but I don't usually change the big part, because the big silhouette or the big thumbnail is why you are. Alright, so now we just change the shape of the gauntlet. So those are probably, I don't know, just trying to make it look cooler basically. I can change tiny little detail like on the gauntlet, part of the legs, but when you design a character, if your client decided that the silhouette, they like the silhouette, you can't change the big silhouette. You can change tiny little part of the design. They won't notice, or they don't really care. They just want the overall to look right. And if they want to change the specific specific part inside gauntlet or inside the glove or something, then by all means you can change that, right? But overall big shape, if you change it, then your client might not like it from the beginning. Try not to change unless you have a good reason to. Alright, so now I'm trying to make some form the fingers, and you have to think about how or where your knuckle turns and which part of your finger or the plane of the finger is facing what direction. Then you can get the whole picture, right? Don't try to think of it as hand. Try to think of, holding your fist loosely and try to notice your finger, and you notice that each plane of your finger facing a different direction. So like in here, I'm going to show you like this index finger here, right? So it basically, this one facing here, this one facing here, this one facing here, and also the thumbs. You see this one kind of up a little bit, and this one facing this way, this one facing this way. Make sense? So think of it as a big picture. So now I'm refining the muscle on his shoulder a little bit more, and I think The voice over is gonna be over pretty soon, but I'll show you. So basically from here on, there's not really an important part that I will have to actually explain in depth. Basically just try to maintain the value and try not to screw it up, and then when you add detail, try to notice the general value around the area that you will add the detail to, and try to notice cast shadow and the dark or the occlusion shadow. And yeah, I think we are done here, but before we're done, I'm going to show you. So this is basically still in the default lighting, right? And I'm just going to show you a little bit how I end up with the side lighting, and I will explain to you why we all like, or I, usually me, and a lot of artists start with the default lighting and then try to pick the additional lighting afterward, because sometimes if you deciding your lighting beforehand, you could do that also, but you can't change it or play with the lighting. But because we have Photoshop and we have overlay, you can decide and changing your lighting direction if you have a strong additional lighting afterward, which I'll show you after this. Okay, so I just want to explain a little bit of something here. So throughout this video, basically I paint everything according to the default lighting. So this is the overall distribution of light from this, right, all the way. It's get darker as it goes down. So the lighting distributed evenly from this sphere as a reference. And then in the last probably 15 minutes of the video, which I probably won't get a chance to explain because the commentation probably end around the hour number 2, because otherwise I'll have to go on for another hour and I have nothing to talk about. So I actually make a selection of all these and use overlay 100%, and I usually use 100% blue light, or the light that came from the environment. So what I pick here is basically this and go all the way. You can go only to 90 or you can go all the way, it doesn't matter, and just paint that. Oh, I probably go all the way here, white. Yeah, that's probably be the color, and it's kind of lighter than what it is. So basically that's the last part, right? And then I make a selection using color balance, and you can look at the number here. So it's all in the PSD file. You can just turn that on. So that's the last part. If so this way, when you have control value, which is, you know, the contrast here is not a lot, there's no highlight here. So basically if I pick here, it's about 80, so that's the lightest part, right? And the rest of them are about 80 or 70, so it's about a little bit over, almost to the light, and it's not a lot of highlight. So I use extreme lighting on the side, so the side lighting, and I set that up since the beginning because I kind of know what I'm gonna do in the end. But throughout the way I just use default light. So whatever light you're trying to put on your character, you can begin with the default light, because default light is like a natural light that come in usually 45 degree either left or right. And if you dim that down, then you have form. And it's better to have a consistent form of the actual object and the light that coming from the top. Then you can manipulate the lighting either from the side or from the bottom or from the back. But the real form of the object, which is this, even without light, even this guy standing in the shadow, let's just say he's standing in the shadow. You can still see form, right? There'll be form. The absence of light is the absolute. If you stay in the big cubicle and close the door and there's no light, then you see absolute black. You might not even see shape. But even if you have a little bit of light exist, then you will see a little bit of form. As you can see here, lighter, darker, a little bit here and there, even though there's not a lot of light. And this is the default form, or the form of the object with tiny little bit of light, because without light you couldn't see form. And if you have a stronger light source from somewhere, then it will get that lighting that hit the surface of some object, and then it will have that stronger light source from some other place. So start with the default, then work your way to do whatever it is. The light can come from this side, doesn't matter. All right, so let's continue.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother. Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother. Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.